Welcome back to In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and today I'm excited to delve into a really wild tale from the history of the Caribbean with you. I'll be presenting findings from a paper written by Rafał Reichert. Just to be clear, as always, I'm presenting this paper neutrally. I'm not endorsing it, but wow, the story is something else. So let's get right into it. The core question this paper tackles is, who was JUAN DE CÁDIZ? And more than that, what does his life tell us about the usual idea we have of pirates lurking in the shadows of the Caribbean during the so-called golden age of piracy? Why does it matter? Because pirates have always captured our imagination, not just as swashbuckling villains or heroes, but as real people living complex and often desperate lives. Understanding this helps us see the messy reality of history, the stuff beneath the legends, right? Okay, so the paper is titled JUAN DE CÁDIZ, un pirata del Caribe, which just means Juan de Cádiz, a pirate of the Caribbean. And man, it's such a richly researched story. First, some context. The 17th century Caribbean was, like, infamous for piracy. You've probably heard of legends like Henry Morgan, Francois l'Olonnais, or Blackbeard. But whoa, there were also hundreds, maybe thousands, of lesser-known pirates and buccaneers. Reichert's focus is on Juan de Cádiz, a Spanish sailor from Cádiz. Yes, he's Spanish, and he ends up fighting against his own people, which is kind of wild, huh? So, how do we know about Juan? Reichert digs deep into colonial court records stored in the General Archive of the Indies in Seville. The details of Juan's life come from confessions and witness statements gathered between 1684 and 1687 in Venezuela and Hispaniola. The authorities accused Juan of, and I'm quoting here, taking up arms against the Spanish in the Indies and joining the company of enemies of the Spanish crown, and that pretty much sums up what landed him in a whole lot of trouble. But here's where it gets interesting. The paper starts by explaining the difference between pirates, corsairs, buccaneers, and filibusters. Did you know those all mean slightly different things in this time period? Pirates attacked anyone. Corsairs had a government-issued license to attack enemy ships. Buccaneers were originally hunters who turned to piracy, and filibusters were a special kind of coastal raider. It's easy to mix them up, I guess. Even the documents of the era weren't always sure which was which. Let's talk about Juan himself. Born in Cádiz, orphaned young, he joined a Spanish ship as a teenager, eventually landing in Cuba. He worked as a turtle fisherman for years, kind of a humble start. But then, one day, he's captured by pirates while transporting sugar. Wild twist, right? Instead of ransoming him immediately, these guys realize he's actually good at fishing, and he's useful to them. So he gets dragged into their world almost by accident. For the next several years, Juan is involved in all kinds of piratey stuff, seizing canoes and boats with food or goods, raiding ranches, and, even being accused of violence against Spanish prisoners. It's not all grand battles and treasures, though. Most of what he's doing sounds like, honestly, barely scraping by, stealing food, raiding small boats, that kind of thing. But here's the kicker. When he finally gets arrested, Juan claims he never actually fought against Spaniards. He says he just wanted to fish for turtles. Witnesses disagree, but his story gives you a sense of how blurry the line could get between being a pirate, a forced labourer, or just an unlucky fisherman in the wrong place. Eventually, after years in court, his death sentence gets reduced to rowing in the Mediterranean galleys for 10 years. Yikes. So, was he a pirate, or just a victim of circumstances? The paper itself doesn't try to give us a final answer. And, honestly, maybe that's the point. Oh, and total digression. Have you ever wondered what it was like to row a galley back then? It must have been absolute torture. I once read somewhere, like, people would, actually, never mind, back to Juan. What does this all mean? Well, the paper's findings challenge our ideas about piracy. They suggest that, for most people caught up in it, piracy wasn't about gold and glory. It was survival, plain and simple. Maybe it's something for us to chew on in our own time, when we think about how history turns regular people into villains or heroes just because of the times they live in. Again, just to repeat, I'm not endorsing these findings, just offering them up as food for thought. Research like this is a window, not a mirror. What we see is subject to change. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of In Depth with Academia. I hope you'll keep questioning the legends, keep digging deeper, and who knows, maybe history is a whole lot messier and more human than we think. Until next time, I'm Richard Price. be curious,